866-762-9238. You can also go to their website at www.enerfood.com. That's ENERF like Frank, OOD like dog.com. Enerfood.com. A big thank you to all of our listeners already taking the products that Enter Health offers. We truly appreciate it. We thank you for your support and encourage you to listen often to stay informed during these crucial times.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Hawk, and it's 3/29/2013, and it is Good Friday. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, it's just sickening to me that we're still fighting against the same Luciferians that arrested our Lord, taxed him, tortured him, and crucified him. Now, to his credit to that, he gave up his life, and that the blood of Jesus has washed those who believe in him and seek him as their Savior. That he's washed us clean of our sin is just phenomenal to me. But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, I just see how things could have very well been in his time, with the Roman government bearing down and with all the traitors in the Sanhedrin, all of the people. And I think about Luke 21 and what Lord Jesus had to say. And he said it right here. Verse 16, Luke 21. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but there shall not an hair on your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, he also said prior to this, verse 12, and this is the timing cue that the Lord showed me. Verse 12, Luke 21, but before all of these, meaning the great earthquakes and diverse places, the famines, pestilences, fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. But before all of these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special guest tonight. His name is Greg Evensen. He is a tremendous peace officer, a lawman of the highest level and the most decorated, and extremely effective and efficient and well-trained military man, special forces, having also undergone initial Secret Service training. And I'm going to tell you what, he's a constitutionalist, and he's a man after my own heart, and a man who's for the Lord Jesus. Greg, are you with us?
I am, Hawk, and as always, my dear friend, it's been good to be with you. We've got a lot to cover tonight. Things are in motion, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And why don't you go right ahead, because I know you've been real busy on your communication lines the last day or two.
Well, we have. First of all, the hope for all of us is in this moment of recognition that we are coming into what many consider Holy Week, the time of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. I just say to everyone, the blood of Jesus covers it all. That's what you need. That's what you should stand with. But you need to know that what is coming will test you in many ways. Look, Hawk, if I had to rate this as a full bird colonel told me in the last 24 hours, I should say this, Hawk, I've been struggling to keep contact with some of the folks that I've been dealing with over the last 2, 3, 4 years. The folks that I've been very close to have been digging in. They know that out of a scale of 1 to 100, 1 being the less likely scenario of anything taking place and 100 being the worst, we are, as he described, at 97 or 98. We are so close, Hawk, to the unraveling of the things that we have held dear in society and in our country, and at the same time being replaced by all things federal, military, and in police state type of situation. I don't know that I can make it any more plain tonight. I will tell you that we have stood by as a nation. We have been standing in the ditch as the last 3 or 4 years especially. The training has gone up many times over what was considered to be normal. That is almost a constant type of urban warfare training in preparation for what is coming. Let me make this very clear to the listeners tonight, Hawk. We are not talking about the immediate possibility of a civil uprising in terms of the people of this country starting a civil war because of their absolute disgust with what's taking place at the state and federal level. What we're looking at is an offensive being started from the federal government down toward the citizenry. You've got to realign your sights here. We're not talking about. Well, there's been talk about it, and there's been some discussion about what might happen if. But the American people have been sitting on the sidelines. They've been watching this. They've been seeing troops by the hundreds of thousands being moved around the country, troops of all nationalities, troops of the North Central Command, and all of the legs of the Pentagon moving at the same time. They've seen thousands and thousands of convoys and trains with armor and artillery. The drones are in the sky. The air assets are primed and ready. Airborne troops are ready. They've been put in areas of the country, Hawk, where they can be used logistically so that they have focal points. There's about 50 of them, and that's not necessarily one in each state. It's just they've been put out in their initial assignments to be able to move so that any asset that's called on would not have to go more than a short logistical distance to keep down on the need for transportation and a lot of fuel resources. But they've been stockpiled. The arms have been taken out of the armories and stockpiled so that they're not available to the citizenry. And on this list goes, you see, their battle plan is ready. It's virtually complete. And the American people are standing like sheep in the field, not knowing what's going on, most of them, and many of them that don't care. We are at the final moment.
Absolutely. I read last night a large number of different alerts and reports that have been coming in. People, if you did not hear the show last night, you go up to stevequayle.com, read his alerts section, and you'll see a large number of them. There's also some more we got in today talking about military transport planes out of Asheville, North Carolina, and then also out of the Reno, Nevada area, a lot of stuff going on there. Now, Greg, one thing last night, and I'm getting feedback for some reason here, but anyway, I'll just keep going. One thing last night, we had like Thurston County, Nebraska, which is south of Omaha. Did you not find, in talking with some of your military and law enforcement sources there, that they're positioning some of these stockpiles like in rural areas or small areas near the old grass hopper kind of airstrips and stuff, the old crop duster strips, and out of the way, but very close to the big cities?
Well, not only that is true, but there's been some new, very low-keyed construction where they have cached those immediate supplies are going to food and water and other resources that are not necessarily entirely military, but they're being cached for military use, or the police that are nationalized by the marshals and other agencies. So they have these stockpiled domes around the country. They're very quick to put up, very easy to put up, and they're storing them now. So they can pull whatever they need out of these areas very quickly to resupply troops that are being sent to the front area, wherever that might be, at the moment that this offensive begins.
Yeah, so everybody thinks they're just for the salt trucks, right?
Well, they can
those
think
domes along the highway, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, why don't you go deeper into what your law enforcement guys have told you as far as what's going to go down and the timing of it, because, we talked about our own wishful thinking and how we would love for it to be a long time, but, Steve has had some people say 2 to 3 weeks on the financial collapse. Now, you're saying that I believe that your military guys are saying is they don't care what the people are doing. They're coming for us anyway. Isn't that what you're really trying to say?
That is exactly correct, and I'm glad you put it that way, because sometimes I don't mean to, but I think I beat around the bush a little bit, and I didn't intend to. But the fact is, Hawk, that it's very difficult, and it can be dangerous if we set artificial timelines, because, and I really don't like that at all, because even though we can look at something, we can assess it, and we can give a general timeline, to be any more specific, these guys love to mess with timelines. So it's simply this. They are now prepared. They are completely in the driver's seat. Everything they need virtually is in place. The last was to get enough drones in the sky and enough drones retrofitted with ordnance and other capability that they would be a true military force in the skies above and beyond our normal air assets of Air Force and other satellites and so forth. So it really is now a matter that they have closed the door. The gap is now completely closed. There is nothing more that is needed to be done before they are capable of waging an offensive at virtually any point in the United States at any time. So there's no more wiggle room, if you will, about whether or not it's coming in the fall or it's coming after whatever takes place in Europe or whatever. You see, the timeline is not a big deal to the people in the military and police and governmental assets or departments, because they're prepared. So whenever this goes, whatever the tripwire is, whatever the latest
decision
disaster is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's correct, because they're ready.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, the thing that I've seen is that they want a pretext, they'll take it. But I'm clarifying once again, they are the ones going to perpetrate war against the American people, because they want to perpetrate war. They want to take the assets. They want the power. And then I believe that what they're really looking for, the power, is to start and begin blood sacrifice to their little G God Lisper. Ladies and gentlemen, they're reading all of our mail. They've been doing that for years, although now they've made it legal. And now they've come out and said they're doing it. They're also watching everything you click on the internet, every website you go to, anything you have on a web site of your own. They're listening to everything on every telephone conversation all over the entire world, and they're able to store that. And then they have all of these assets and all of these foreign troops. It's like the worst nightmare, Greg, and people still can't see it. And then not only that, now they're telling you that when the banks go belly up irrigate, pretty quickly, they're just going to take the money and take your pension, take your IRAs. And what more do people want? And then we still have the other guys working for the other side out here. Oh, it'll be 10 years. And, we got to wait till the Russians are a little more powerful, or the Red Chinese. Well, the Red Chinese are surpassing us now in terms of the economy.
Well, that's exactly correct. And, of course, it has been postulated in this discussion I've had that what we're looking at is a tripwire, wherever that might be. You can call it Cyprus, you can call it whatever. It does. There's plenty to go around, as I say, on the buffet table of disaster here. That any of these flashpoints could trigger the response. But they're suggesting now, in my discussion with these two men the last couple of days, is that what they feel, and this is postulated now. This is not a plan written down, but they're suggesting that at this moment, the international banking community is preparing for a cataclysm of some kind, so that they can cover the most recent hacking that's gone on to the tune of several $1 trillion worldwide, just at the bottom of the page. And so they can pull back in. They can start making sure that they've got all of their assets completely covered, that they can take and run whenever they need to, and whatever happens after that, no big deal. But I guarantee you this, the governments will be jumping into those bank accounts, covering their losses, because even though the banking community has got their own issues covered, they're going to reach back out into the pockets of the American people and worldwide people to cover the losses that are coming. Huge, unprecedented losses in the banking community. So that is part of the overall strategy. It's just not clear how that will emerge entirely.
Yeah. And then V has put up a new alert on Steve's site today. Steve put it up there, V as a source. And V basically tells you that the cyber attacks are being done using some kind of a Stuxnet-like algorithm, and that they're being done. He said the only way you can be doing them is some intelligence agency with some state or national actor, and he does not rule out the United States or anybody else. I suspect that, having also heard some stuff on the backside, is that it might be some of these things are being done by the Beast computer in Belgium, the old NATO computer.
Well, imagine that, and things like that, integral, bedrock bits of preparation like that that's taken place over the last 20 to 30 years have not been abandoned. They've just been updated and upgraded so that they're up to the task. The same thing is true with these assault vehicles that we're seeing around the country being prepositioned now for use by our forces and mercenary force in the country. And they have such a nice little acronym, Strategic Tactical Assault Battle Vehicles. STAB.
Yes, they're stabbed. They're going to stab the American people in the back. Yeah,
exactly correct. And these are formidable battle machines. They're not impervious, but they have gone up quite a jump in the armored Humvees. They really are very difficult to, strategically speaking, to defeat. So and the reason for that simply is that they know that when the resistance does come, when the American people have the boot on their neck and they should respond, they want to be prepared to defeat most of the locally thrown together and kind of an assault against them, but not really very well coordinated, because the American people will take a while to come together and gel into an effective force. I'm not suggesting that people should go jump into this, but what I'm saying is it is inevitable. Okay, I'm not going to take the responsibility for calling people to arms or to action, because that's something that's needed to be done on an individual basis. But when that time comes, when the final assault on the rights and privileges and history of the American people is ground into the dust, and people do begin to resist, they had to have something that would be able to be easily deployed across the country that would be very, very difficult to battle against. That and a drone attack at the same time would need only a very small controlling unit to be able to put the drone in the air and send the drone where they want, and to direct the small stab vehicles wherever they wanted, again, to back them up and to take out pockets of resistance.
Yeah, and then, folks, it doesn't mean that all the other pretexts we've talked about in the years, Greg, Steve, and I, and other people are not out there. For instance, the University of Texas, the Galveston branch, they lost a big old vial, Greg. I'm sure you saw this, of some kind of mouse stuff that makes hemorrhagic fever, you know? And I say that, isn't that interestingly enough that goes missing about 3 weeks after the Red Chinese come in to Wright Pat in clandestine executive jets, land at Wright Pat, and then are ferried all over the place, the other place in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and to Kansas City, Missouri. And then isn't it interesting, it's either the Russian Spetsnaz or the Red Chinese, in my estimation, who took that vial of hemorrhagic fever, and they could be easily going to use somewhere on, particularly resistant areas. If they can't carpet bomb them to death and if people go underground, then I suppose they'll just release the bugs, Greg,
Well, that would certainly be a great cleanup crew for resistance that was left. Hawk, look, there's two or three things that stand out in my mind that cannot be denied and cannot be refuted. The United States government, through all of its agencies and agents, have never really put out a major league offensive against those of us that talk straight out about these issues. And I've had some people say, "Well, why not?" I said, because they do not want to give this any more profile than it's already been given. They cannot refute it. There's been too many, thousands upon thousands of witnesses across the country that have seen the trains, that have seen the convoys, that have seen the movement of troops and material all over this country. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment just in the last year or year and a half. Hundreds of billions, approaching $1 trillion in black budget money that's sitting in airports, that's sitting in rural airstrips, that are in these newly placed looking like highway domes that they store salt and gravel in, and those kinds of things. And people say, well, maybe it's just gravel and salt. Well, maybe it is. But some of the newest ones that we've seen, that witnesses have seen the trucks pull up to and drop off not sand or salt, but crates of something. I'll tell you, we haven't seen inside the crates. But for what reason, at this point, would they be building that new stuff in rural areas, off major highways where it can be quickly put onto the transportation grid? Is it possible that it's just something that we're going to need at some point that they're going to beautify the highways with? I kind of doubt it. But there have just been way too many, Hawk. It's over and over and over and over again. It's coming from the banks. It's coming from the government. It's coming from individuals within the military. It's coming from police officers who are having a terrific time dealing with this now. Some of them are. Some are just lockstep with whatever they're told. But many of them, increasing numbers of them, have already got their plans done. I had one state trooper tell me, look, we're going to do everything we can to make this run smoothly. That is keeping things going, especially in the rural areas. But our families, and we have a grid of people that are going to go where we have a retreat, and we're simply just going to go, and we'll park the squads where we park them, and we'll take care of our families and friends. They're looking that far ahead, and I have police officers, Hawk, that tell me all the time that this is absolutely correct, that there's no secret about this. They're escorting convoys or trucks loaded with the Department of Homeland Security ammunition, crates of it, hundreds of thousands of rounds of it, and on it goes. How much more is needed to be heard? And yet we have stood by as American citizens, and we've let this happen. We haven't challenged anybody. Our impotent, ignorant representatives in Washington, our state governments, all go along chasing the almighty dollar, saying, and Obama and his crew saying, if you'll take this money, we'll let you do this, but just don't get in our way. Just leave us alone. Let us do our work.
I'm going to interject this at this moment here, because it's right out of the Declaration of Independence, and it explains that. They said, governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But then it says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And Greg, as I recall, you being a lawman, the Declaration of Independence is still the law of the land, is it not?
Well, the Declaration is a moral authority. The Constitution is a legal authority. The Articles of Confederation are still in effect. We have plenty of really good law in this country, but it's not being followed because the people that we have entrusted to make sure that our laws are followed and good legislation comes out and good judges and good courts adjudicate correctly and grand juries are convened when necessary has all fallen by the wayside, so that the single plan of defeating the United States of America from within is the sole goal of our government at this point. I accuse the government of Washington of complete dereliction of duty, of ignorance of their oath, of violation of their oath of office. They are, in fact, not operating in the best interest of this country, and I'll even go so far as to say there are a number of them that are absolute outright traitors to the country of the United States that many men and women fought and died to keep, and we have let it slip through our hands. Shame on us for ever letting this happen.
And then, Greg, there's an article out today. DHS, Homeland Security, in a message to their agents, particularly to the U.S. Border Patrol, is now demanding obedience to their upper echelon. The controversial message demanding obedience was displayed for agents on TV monitors in the San Diego and Tucson sectors last week. And basically what they said is that you're to cheerfully engage in obedience upon demand, especially if orders included instructions to violate the Constitution. For example, they go on to one of their long-rumored FEMA camp guards, guarded by employees of DHS armed personnel carriers. He asked, perhaps we hear loudspeakers playing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, and something out of Hitler's Nazi Germany. So this obedience thing that the Department of Human Sacrifice is putting in, obedience, cheerfully engage in it, on demand, especially if orders included instructions to violate the Constitution. That's in their own DHS's propaganda. That's called traitors. That's called being treasonous. That is called Luciferian scumbag Nazi sons of bucks. Okay? That's what I call it.
Hawk. Every last one of the enforcement agents in this country, I don't care if you're a local city constable or you are a federal marshal, you have been asked to take, in fact, you were required to take an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of this country, which is first and foremost an allegiance to the people of this country. I took one on 5 or 6 different occasions, whether in the military or in law enforcement, and I cheerfully took it because I knew that at the bottom of the page, I would never violate the Constitution, even though it has been rendered impotent, it's been rendered basically useless by our own government. It still exists. It is still there. It is still the ultimate law of the land, flawed or not, but it is something that is being ignored, like with dictates like this that are grievable to the point of arrest of the people issuing those dictates.
Maybe we should get like the Mexicans did down there in Guerrero, where thousands of armed citizen vigilantes took over and arrested the corrupt police chief, and they put up checkpoints against the narco-trafficante cartels. And maybe we should go ahead and do that. It's in Tierra Colorado, which connects Mexico City to Acapulco. It's a coastal city, but they were a local group that was anti-corruption in the police, and they're getting tired of it. And then their leader was gunned down for the cartels by the official police chief. Well, I mean, if they want, to come a court like old Froggy, then I'm going to tell you what, there's going to be some good old boys out here with frog gigs here pretty quick.
Hawk, I will tell you that many, I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, we'll be back in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. This is Greg Evensen on with the Hawk. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
With natural and man-made disasters and economic turmoil, if we don't get well prepared, we will most certainly regret it. Good readiness must include storage of high-quality food that will build us up rather than tear us down. Much of the storable food available is full of bad fats, salt, sugar, nutrient-poor refined foods, and even MSG. In response, EnerHealth Botanicals has created our 40-day and 40-night 100% organic preparedness pail. It's GMO-free and has a 10 to 20-year shelf life if stored at 60 degrees or less. Some of the items need cooking, some can be eaten dry, while some can be soaked and sprouted. These are selling out fast at third the price of storable food packages. Call us at 866-762-9238. That's 866-762-9238. Or go to enerfood.com, ENEROOD.com, 866-762-9238, or go to ENERFOOD.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Hawk and Greg Evensen, and we're rolling right here on Good Friday, 3/29/2013. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get a discount on the food or any of the EnerHealth Botanical products, the Silmarin or the Bladderwrack tinctures and material that you can help to get rid of the Fukushima radiation that is still pouring out and raining down on us, and it is coming towards the West Coast, you can get in touch with them either by email or calling them at enerfood.com, and you tell them Hawk sent you. Hawk is the code word to get a discount. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get your money out of these stinking banks where they're going to clip you, they're going to give you their haircut, they're 20, 40, 80%, steal your pension, then get it into precious metals. Get it into food first. Food, firearms, medical supplies, camping gear, and boots, and socks, and what have you. But by all means, take what you don't have after you've gotten done that, put it into gold and silver. You call Steve Quayle at 406-586-4840. 406-586-4840. And you tell him Hawk sent you. And then if you want to, you can also email Steve Quayle 777 at yahoo.com. And then you can give a phone number and a time, best time to call you, and what you want to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, by all means, do that. And then for old sharpsaddles.com, if you want a knife that will not break or bend when you use it with the pointy side in the proper direction, if you want a good leather saddle that'll keep you on your horse from now till the cows come home, you just get in touch with sharpsaddles.com. Greg, I'd like for you to give your website information and talk about your Castle Defense program right now, too.
Thanks, Hawk. We have made a great effort to make the finest DVDs available, 12 hours worth. At present, we've got 3 more hours coming out very shortly. Will be called The Final Defense. We have been doing this for several years, but we did it because we knew we couldn't get out to visit everybody. It's a complete set of printed material in the survival manual and the update, and of course the Castle Defense system itself. It's designed to bring you from nowhere to where you need to be if you're not aware of what you must have, the tactics you need to explore and be mastering as we go along here. Because without it, when this goes down, you won't have anywhere to go. So please consider that. The HeartlandUSA.com special going on right now. The HeartlandUSA.com. Thanks for that, Hawk. And I want to mention, for those of you that have put your valuables in safety deposit boxes across the country, you better read the fine print in your contract with the bank. There's only 2 people that have the keys. That's the bank president and you. And if you go there and find that suddenly your box is empty, guess who was in your box if you weren't? The only way that is safe to do this, and I'm going to tell the people of the country this right now, if you're going to maintain, you're going to keep one of those stupid safety deposit boxes, then make sure that you have had a witness from the bank, someone in the bank, go down to your box. You have an inventory of what's in that box, and you sign it, you date it, and you have the bank official sign it at the same time. That way, when you go back 3 months from now and your gold or your silver or whatever is missing, as has occurred many times in the last few months, especially one of my dear friends in Ohio went back to the bank and it was gone. Nobody is admitting anything. Look, you better cover yourself because it'll be gone.
Well, I'll tell you what, they would do better with mason jars, just like Jesse James and those boys did, and bury them in the ground and keep a good map of them. Because I read last night, Greg, I found the letter that Steve Quayle received, and I wrote a piece about it back in 2009 or 2008, I forget which. But this was an actual letter, Greg, with exactly what you're talking about from the high-level executives in one of the largest banks in the United States. And here's what it said. Dear bank customer, we regret the difficulty our denying access to your lockbox at such bank has created. Please understand the regulations imposed yesterday by governmental organizations, including the Internal Revenue Service, the FDIC, Federal Reserve, as well as Executive Order number withheld, signed by President Barack Obama on date withheld, require us to seal lockboxes and disallow access until further authorization. This means your lockbox cannot be accessed under any circumstances for the purpose of adding or removing contents until the government restores access privileges. Again, we apologize for this inconvenience and ask you to realize this situation is totally beyond our control here at the bank so-and-so. And this were actual letters that were written at the behest of the Federal Reserve, and the copies of these, and one of them also dealt with the amount of your money in your accounts. You could only take out $500 a week from any one or a combination of any of your accounts, including your credit cards. And those were the actual letters that were prepared for that bank by a high-level executive, and those were given to Quayle. So people, get your money out of these banks and get them out of these haircut shops and these places. And I'm familiar with what Greg was saying. I believe somebody lost about $45,000 worth of gold that was inherited and had been in there for, 20, 30, 40 years from somebody's dad,
That is correct. And I'll simply say that the time is coming very soon, Hawk. I'm getting a legal opinion about this. Simply because we've got to follow some kind of rules here as far as my consideration of this. But I will start naming names of the banks that have been responsible for this, so that you know that this is a real issue. But I'll tell you, it's very real to the people who've lost their life savings in here. And it's simply one more level, one more layer, Hawk, of the incredible corruption that has been tolerated, perpetrated by the government and tolerated by the people for a generation. And then you add on to that the past 50 years, and even beyond, to the time immediately prior to the enactment of the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax in 1913. These things have been building and building and building. We have seen increasing government control of every facet of our lives, a complete anathema to what this nation was founded on to get away from. But this country, being no different than any other major civilization that has come along in the last 3,000 years, we have gone the same route. We start with freedom and we end with slavery. Then there's revolution and we begin the cycle over again. Why is that? Because it's about power, money, and control every time by those we put in charge of us, our government, our armed forces, our police agencies. And even though there weren't police agencies, if you want to call it that, way back 1,000 years ago, the early versions of sheriffs were the same thing. They had their bands of former criminals that they got together and they went out and squeezed the local serfs that were out in the British countryside and the French countryside. So now we're at a time, even though it's 2013, we're seeing the same repeat of the same thing, the same installation of slavery, and the complete rendering of impotence to the American people this time. And it is our time to pay the price because we have not been vigilant.
Yeah, Greg, and I'll tell you, we used to say the barbarians will be at the gates, but basically in our case, our politicians and our Illuminati top bankers and our wonderful snake in the grass intelligence boys and the fiddle with boys internally and all those Department of Human Sacrifice, they're the ones who have invited the barbarians into the gates so that, according to Public Relations Officer Wendy at Fort Carson, Colorado, she just wanted to make sure the Russians, we could take them to a baseball game, the American pastime, while they were here to do their training. Their Spetsnaz were here to train and learn how to kill people, you know.
That's going to make them real sensitive to the American people when they go out to arrest them, or worse. This is so egregious, Hawk. There is no good way to describe this. All we can do at this point is hammer this, as long as we've got left, to hammer how the American society has been turned inside out, that people have lost their freedom and they don't even know they've lost it after all. We still sing the Star-Spangled Banner at the baseball games coming up, and we still ask for God to bless America, this corrupt place that we live in, and it's not going to happen. And if we continue to delude ourselves, to fool ourselves into thinking that this has got a happy ending the way it's going, then truly those people will be the most tragically upset when they realize that there is nothing left. They have inherited nothing. Whatever they thought they had is gone. It will be claimed by the government. It will be taken out of your bank accounts. It will be taken as when you die. They will take it in your settlement with the IRS. Whatever it is, if you think you're living in a free country, then you need some real serious counseling.
And just wait till the Obamacare kicks in and the IRS starts running health care, and then the death panels, which they say didn't exist. But now, Greg, it's my understanding that anybody 65 years or older may not even get what they expect to be normal healthcare treatment that we've all, been able to, basically obtain either by private insurance or by Medicare at the age 65 and older, or just to pay for outright. Those things now are going to be denied so that you can make room for those young cadre that are more sensitive to the gay, lesbian, Luciferian scumbag line of work. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not only that, but they're wanting to protect the working units. Those people are young enough to do whatever it is, a medium, hard task job, not paying much, so they can keep the taxes going. All along, Hawk, every disaster plan that's ever been made in this country always has room for the Internal Revenue Service after a nuclear disaster or whatever, because they're not ever going to let up on taxes. You will pay taxes as long as you submit to that, and as long as you voluntarily give into that. You're going to be under the yoke of that for as long as you live. Now, if you care to do that, that's your business. But the time has come when that must end. We cannot feed this beast that can turn around and use that fat belly to roll over the rest of us and squeeze whatever we got left out of us. It is time, truly, Hawk, the time has come, as you quoted in the Declaration, to exercise that clause. That document is just as valid as the day it was written.
Absolutely.
And it's long past due to collect on some of the contingencies in it.
And I would tell the law enforcement people out there, the good ones, I read, the State Department document 7727 years ago, Greg, as you did too, that outlined exactly what we're getting ready to go through on getting rid of the guns. And the next people, after they take the guns of the population and then they use the police to go out and to take guns from people and whatever they're going to do here, and then kill the American people who won't go along or put them in camps, then the next people to get disarmed are the police themselves.
That's correct.
And they'll be disarmed by the foreign military and those Ukrainian and Russian liaison officers in the big city departments.
Well, and in many of the states, Hawk, the Department of Homeland Security liaison with the state is generally with the state police or the highway patrol organization, whatever it is, the state police in that state. And so you've got a local element of this that's in control, so that when this comes down, the plan that has been worked up between the local agencies, the county sheriffs, and the state organization is seamless. They will go to the prearranged position with either semis, or it will be a fixed building where they will check out the equipment, the automatic weapons, all of the ammo, the riot gear, the NBC gear, nuclear, biological, and chemical suits, that they may be, everything will be checked out if it hasn't been already, so that this becomes a statewide fighting force, not a protective force, not a police force, not a sheriff's department to defend the people of the county, but rather to wage war against those people for compliance. It is all about control. You will conform, or we will arrest you. Is there any middle ground there? No, absolutely not.
Yes,
so
taking the mark of the beast,
willing to go?
Swear your allegiance, or you don't get the government cheese.
That is correct. Or you won't get the government card that's got the chip on it that allows you to go to the store to get your medications or your food, or whatever it may be. If you don't think this is coming, folks, then again, you're just simply not dealing with reality. Not only is it coming, delusion. That's correct. It's planned for. It's already on the shelf, ready to be implemented at the drop of the hat, so to speak. And you don't have any other options short of resistance. And how are you going to resist? After all, you don't believe in firearms, or the people shouldn't. And I'm talking to a few here, but so how will you exactly tell that police officer or that squad car or that brand new stab vehicle that comes up your driveway? What are you going to do to resist? How exactly will you do that? Will you throw rocks at them, or will you have your German Shepherd run after them and bite the tires?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so really, this is way beyond discussion stage. This is in implementation, just immediately prior to implementation. They are ready. You are not. Guess who wins?
Yeah. And so then, therefore, I would like to reference, there's something called the U.S. Army Combat Skills Handbook, Department of the Army. And it tells you how to dig fighting positions. You know, all kinds of neat ones, and where to put them, and all kind of stuff. How to camouflage things. It tells you all kind of that. You can get it at usually Borders Books or one of those kind of places.
Well, I'll tell you, Hawk, we'll save the people the trouble, because they can get it at the Heartland's.
I was hoping you would say
Heartland site as a download. So folks, check it out. This is for you. But whatever it takes to get you ready, then I'm for it. And if you're not prepared, you better get prepared.
Greg, your whole, all the stuff that you provide, all those hours and hours of training in the Castle Defense, tell people how inexpensive it is, and it is inexpensive for what you're getting, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you can either buy the individual components, which some people do simply because they're on a fixed budget and they're wanting to do other things, and they're listed at our website store where people can go for those things. Or you can get them as a package, which is everything in that, and it's $100. It's half price. Actually less than half price of what it used to be when we first came out with this, and our costs were the greatest. We've reduced it, so it's available to you at a cost that a night out with 3 or 4 of you in the family, and you'd spend the same amount of money. It's there for you to get if you wish to, but it's all there, and it's a good package.
Yeah, it's cheaper than going to see one NCAA game with your family. It's cheaper than going to the ballpark with your family. Probably, if you got a big family, it's about the same price you go when you go to McDonald's anymore. So,
well, it's $100. We ship it out to you.
$100. Get what Greg is offering to you, because it is vital that you have the information to defend your castle, your home, and to stand up against the Luciferians, against them who are coming to take your families. And according to what I was told, somebody overheard a Canadian general a number of years ago say, these stupid Americans, when we come up and re-roll up to their house, if they even ask us one single question, we're going to put bullets in their head of whoever asks, and then we're going to take their spouse, their children, all of their goods and their home, and then we will use their children and their wives any way we see fit. And that was what the Canadian general said. You can imagine what a Russian or Red Chinese guy would say.
You know, Hawk, it comes down to this, and it truly does. And we've said this a few times, but it bears repeating. The responsibility for what takes place in your community, your neighborhood, your group of folks that think like you and are not trying to wage war against anyone. You're trying to prevent being overrun by bad guys, wherever that may be from, and to survive. So this is it. This is the point. It's not to say to you, well get out there and street fight. Look, with what you're up against, you try that. Unless you're very well armed and very well trained, you're going to lose. So when I'm saying this is in a defensive mode, we're simply saying that times call for that kind of real, a strong advocacy of those positions by the people out here who can do it best, and that is you. Men, you need to stand up to this. You need to get your families organized. You need to get what you need to make sure that you can get through a growing season or get through even a year, if that's what it takes, if things go off the rails. Whatever that is, and again, our defense system brings into all of those variables. We talk about that. We show you field maneuvers. We've been very careful in the DVDs to make sure that you see as much as possible in there to show you how to do them. We back it up with our manuals to tell you when the lights go out, you can do it that way. Look, we want you to be ready, whatever that takes. If we can help you, we'll stand that way and make sure that you contact us. If you have any questions, I'll be glad.
Where's that website again, Greg?
What's that?
What's the website name again?
It is the Heartland USA.com. The Heartland, HEARTLAND .com. The HeartlandUSA.com.
Hey, Greg, do you have any thoughts about how to defend against these drones?
Yes, sir. There's two ways. One, if you are good with a high-powered rifle, I will guarantee you that you have an opportunity. There are some more sophisticated ways that are being developed using navigational disruption frequencies that will, I think, eventually turn out well. They're just not quite online yet for the private individuals. But frankly, if they start sending drones over to harass and to cause damage of any kind, I absolutely advocate shooting them down.
Well, I also think that people ought to be aware and cognizant of just where the FAA is doing these drone licenses at. They put out all these towns and everything. You and I have discussed the fact that little old Harrington, Kansas, 2,541 people is a U.S. drone site, And then we've speculated that what they did is somebody brought a Zero Halliburton case with a lot of money to them, said, hey, why don't you front for us and go ahead and let's put a drone base in your little town here.
That's right. We've got some city or county property out here. We're not doing anything else with. How about you park 200-300 drones out here, and they can be for this central segment of Kansas?
Yeah, or maybe it's at the Crop Duster Airport or at the local college or university's airport, which are being used, or the old World War II air stations and things that still have good runways and that the small planes land in and out of sometimes, but no tower.
Well, of course, the plan is in place also, Hawk, for whatever maintenance may need to be done. They have strips of highway, state roads especially, where they're simply going to block it off and bring the drones in. They'll have a maintenance crew there on site where they've done a mission or two and they need to be maintenance. They bring them in. They don't even have to return to their stationing point. They'll just bring them down, park them, and if necessary, they'll take them off on the back of flatbeds.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you something. You and I have talked about this before when we were on air once before. I brought up again last night. The law basically is the domestic insurgency and declaration of martial law. It's basically a document that was put out on 12 October 2008. And basically, this thing tells you the entire domestic insurgency and declaration of martial law, talks about cordon and search, and all of the different things and how they're going to take you down, how they're going to use children as spies to report on you, and to let them know where you're at and all kind of stuff. This is so thing. You might find this on the web, people. Domestic Insurgency and Declaration of Martial Law, 12 October 2008. It was leaked, although basically it involves a suspension of the Constitution and then the turning control of the government over to FEMA and appointment of military dictators and commanders to run the state and local governments. All of that's in place, Greg. And as you, I think, once said a few years ago, I believe it was the state of Illinois had all of their downloads to even the individual state troopers as to where they're to go, and then that they're to unlock that packet and stick it in their computer when they're ordered to do so, and that'll give them all their orders.
That's the Doomsday CD. It exists. It's there, just as you described. And these things, Hawk, that we've been talking about, you and I have been on for several years together, off and on, and we've been talking about it for several years. These plans have not changed, except to be updated and improved, if you will. So we are looking at the final stages of their saying, we are ready.
Yeah.
And that's
folks, we should have, this is Hawk saying this, not Greg. I won't give credit to anybody else but myself. Folks, we should have changed this stuff up back in the early 90s after Randy Weaver and his wife or his family and everybody were killed after Waco. We should have taken care of the problem then. We didn't. We got backed off of the whole doggone thing. They kind of let a little prosperity back into the mix, so everybody got excited about cigars and, going out for wine bars and making money on their house and all of that. Now they've taken it all away. It's like the old racetrack. They let you win the first 4 or 5 races, and then they throw a ringer horse in with 20 to 1 odds. Say at Old Keeneland or the Kentucky Derby, then they take all your money away. Greg, thank you much, my brother. We got to go. It's been too short.
Well, it has, Hawk. Thanks so much. God bless you.
You bet. And don't go into their Luciferian knife, people, without a fight. Get that Castle Defense. The Heartland USA from Greg. Good night to the mighty men and women of valor. I know you're up there in the TR-3Bs, the TR-4s. Over this country, and then over also Korea, and them old Fandango Rangers, wherever you may be, I know that you're ready. And God bless you. And old Mickey LaPua, well, I know you're ready, baby. Good night.